This is an oral history interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at National Regional High School in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and community which you now reside.
My name is Joshua Ledger, and I live in South Dennis.
How did you end up on Cape Cod?
I got stationed on Cape Cod as a recruiter in the Army. This is how I ended up here.
Where did you grow up?
New Hampshire, Rochester, New Hampshire.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't know, a lawyer.
Why the military?
Well, I joined because I wanted to go to college and just for the experience and to do something different.
How did your family react when you told them you were going to war?
They were worried, upset that I was going to be deployed, and obviously concerned.
Where were you stationed?
While I was deployed?
Yes.
In Kuwait and Iraq.
What was friendship like during your service?
It's a brotherhood, so you're really close with all of your battle buddies and your teammates and everything. So it's more of like a family.
What did you miss most about civilian life while you were serving?
You have a lot more freedoms as a civilian than you do while you're in, so you can kind of do more things. Civilian life's not as structured.
How did you feel being away from your family?
You miss your family when you're there, and obviously they're worried about you. I definitely miss them a lot.
What did you do during your off time?
Hung out with friends, different hobbies at the time.
How did you communicate with your friends and family at home while you were at war?
We had a phone line that we could use, and sometimes, depending on what base we were at, we could use the internet.
What was the most difficult decision you had while making service?
What?
What was the most difficult decision you had to make while serving?
There's a lot of different decisions that you have to make while you're out there, depending on the situation. I was an engineer, so depending on the job that we're on, really dependent on that, and just being in the right place when you're supposed to be there.
If your son or daughter wanted to enlist in the military, how would you feel?
I would be supportive, so long as they knew the full scope of everything involved.
What's an example of a difficult decision you had to make?
While deployed?
Yes.
We had a vehicle breakdown, me and a battle buddy, and we were just in the middle of the desert, so basically I had to hunker down in the vehicle in case anything happened, so just trying to play that smart was pretty difficult. You're concerned if you're making the right decision by staying there or trying to do something else.
What were the most challenging weather conditions you faced?
High temperatures, sandstorms. It did rain at one point for like a week straight and things got flooded, but a lot of sandstorms, high winds, and high heat.
Describe your living conditions.
We lived in a tent. There was 30 of us. It was a pretty large tent. We had shower connexes, so you'd walk to the showers, you'd take a shower, then you'd have to walk back to the tent, and by the time you got there, you'd be covered in sand again. And then for like latrines, we just had porta potties.
Describe in detail a normal day for you.
Typically, we would be working in the evening so that the temperatures were halfway decent. So we'd get up, go to a convoy to a job site, and do whatever we needed to do there. We'd have chow in the morning, and in the afternoon and at night. And then when you got back, you'd either have tower guard or kind of just relax and hang out and joke around with everybody.
How did you make friends during your service?
Easily. No, I mean, you get to know each other, especially when you're deployed. You're living with each other. You see each other day in, day out, so you learn a lot about each other. And then just when not deployed, you're around these people all the time, similar to like a regular civilian job.
Was there anyone in particular that you had a strong bond with?
Yeah, my battle buddy Nick Andrews. Him and I actually, when we got back from our deployment, got an apartment together, and we're like best friends to this day.
How do you still communicate with him?
Yeah, oh yeah, all the time.
Which places were the most interesting to serve?
Yeah, definitely Kuwait was interesting. A lot of different people, a lot of different scenery, completely different than obviously here at home. So that was definitely very interesting.
What was your favorite aspect of your specific job?
Just a lot of the problem solving and just building different things, figuring out ways to get the job done, even though the conditions weren't always optimum.
What was your proudest moment?
Getting promoted to sergeant and getting my E5, so that was pretty, I was proud of that because there was a lot of work and time that went into it.
What did you think about your higher authority?
For the most part, depending on, I was in a few different units throughout my time in the Army, but overall, they were pretty good.
What were the health conditions like?
We had medical facilities there, so if you got sick, you could get taken care of and everything like that. As far as like I said, we used porta potties and had to walk to a shower complex to take showers, so it's really, you're sweating all day and everything. But no, overall, we were generally taken care of.
What was your least favorite aspect of your specific job?
Just the convoys, just because you never knew what was going to happen while you were convoying. You're basically out in the open, and so that's, obviously worrisome.
What was the biggest adjustment from your civilian life to your service?
Just getting used to, operating in a completely different fashion than what you're used to on the civilian side, and basically being told where to be, when to be there, how to be, what to do in every aspect, but you adjust to it pretty quickly.
How is life in the military different from civilian life?
They're involved in every aspect of your life, your higher ups, so you don't just really, call out sick like you do at work on a civilian job. You have to be where you have to be. You have physical training every morning. There's, PT tests, physical training tests that you have to do, weapons qualifications. So there's a lot of different things that are different.
What was training like, and how long did it take?
Basic training was difficult, but it was rewarding. You're pushing yourself, and when you actually complete something in basic training, you feel really fulfilled by doing it because of how difficult it is. Basic training was 8 weeks, and then AIT, Advanced Individual Training, where I went to learn how to be an engineer. That was an additional 9 weeks, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Where did you do your training?
I went to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training, and then Gulfport, Mississippi for my job training.
What specific conflict did you serve in, and what years?
It was Operation Enduring Freedom / Operation Iraqi Freedom, and I was deployed 2003 into 2004.
What do you do now as a job?
The Central Station Manager over at Cape Cod Alarm in West Yarmouth.
What do you miss most about civilian life while you were serving?
Being able to see your friends and family and, the stuff that you're used to. Being able to just kind of have more freedom to do what you want. The normalcy of civilian life.
Describe your happiest moment from the war.
Leaving.
Describe your darkest memory from the war.
I would say, when that vehicle broke down, it was the evening. So, and we were in Suicide Alley, not like here Suicide Alley on Cape, but it was an area that got hit pretty frequently, and it was just me and another battle buddy. So, it was pretty concerning. We also had a vehicle rollover at one point while we were convoying, but um, yeah, they were pretty sketchy times.
Describe an injury that you could have gotten.
That I could have gotten, or
That
that
you
I
had.
did. I didn't get injured at all, so I was pretty lucky.
Describe what life was like in the foreign country.
Um, Most of the time we were with other Americans, military, but dealing with the locals and everything, you're hesitant and you're nervous because you don't know what's going to happen. But for the most part, they're generally mostly good people there. So and we had a lot of Kuwaiti civilian contractors that helped us and worked with us that were good people.
How did the locals treat you?
For the most part, pretty well. Like I said, our interactions were, we try to limit it because again, you don't know who's who. But again, the civilian contractors over there were really, good people.
Who was the most influential person you met during your time serving?
Um, our captain, he was really motivating. He gave a lot of different perspectives to how to go about doing things and had, a lot of great ideas.
What was it like to get your uniform?
It was a proud moment, when you finally got, your uniform and you were officially a soldier.
What did you build or do while being an engineer?
We poured a lot of concrete for entry control points, vehicle checkpoints we built. We also put together and disassembled pre-engineered buildings at like Al Jabar Air Force Base, which was the joint task force base between the American military as well as the Kuwaiti military. And we worked with the Air Force in conjunction with that, so that was a good project. That took a while, but yeah, mostly vehicle checkpoints, entry control points, things of that nature.
Why did you enlist in the Army?
As opposed to a different service?
Yes.
Because when I was 17, I thought it was more hardcore than like the Air Force or Navy, so I wanted to do something a bit more challenging.
Did you have any goals that you wanted to accomplish?
Going into it?
Yes.
Honestly, I just wanted to get, prove to myself that I could do it and complete the training and then be successful at it.
What was the environment like?
Where? Like
where
while
you were
deployed?
serviced?
Well, in Kuwait, it was hot and dry. In other areas, when I was stationed at Fort Jackson, it's more humid there. When I was in Gulfport, there was a lot of storms. We were there during hurricane season, so it was just constantly raining the whole time. So,
Was there anything that kept you from not going outside?
not really. If you have to go outside, you're going outside.
How has the military changed your life?
It's given me more structure, more attention to detail and things. I would say more driven to succeed at what I do. It was definitely a positive experience.
Describe your transition going back to civilian life.
It was different because I was so used to how the military works where, if somebody gets told to do something, they just do it and they do it to the best of their ability. So definitely going back to a civilian type job was a transition and a lot different because civilian, employees and people, a lot of people in civilian jobs don't have the same mentality. So,
If you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I maybe choose a different MOS, a different job, maybe something a bit more difficult.
How did your time serving affect your personal relationships?
you know, you when you spend a lot of time away from people, you know, friends and stuff like that, you kind of lose touch. Um, Relationships are obviously a bit harder when you're gone a lot and everything like that. So just I think the distance and being away a lot obviously adds to the difficulties of normal, you know, relationships with people, friends and family and things like that.
What advice would you give a young person thinking about entering the military?
Make sure you know, you do your research, you look into it, you talk to people that have done it, and you know, and especially the particular job that you're interested in, so you have a good idea of what you're getting into. Because when you sign a contract, you're in it for the duration of that contract. So you just want to make sure you have as much info as possible.
Why did you choose engineering?
I was interested in learning how to build and design things, and just kind of create something from nothing.
How did you feel coming back from war?
I felt good. I was glad, and it was good to get back home and get back on American soil and back to what you're familiar with.
What kind of research did you do before entering the military?
Um, Honestly, not much. We didn't. When I joined, it was 2001, so we had the internet, but it wasn't like today. So you know, you basically listened to what the recruiter told you, and you know, that was really it.
And did you talk to any people before signing the contract?
A couple, but I definitely, again, you know, I would recommend, you know, anybody interested, definitely talk to a few different people to get different perspectives, because everybody's military experience is different.
What was it like signing the contract? What process did you have to go to?
It's quite a process. You have to answer a lot of health, life questions, legal questions. When I joined, I was actually 17 when I signed, so my mother also had to sign as well. You have to go to MEPS, which is the Military Entrance Processing Station, where you have to do a physical, and they ask you a lot of different questions. And so once you pass that and all your paperwork's good to go, then you swear in, and then you get your date for when you go to basic training.
Did you finish high school?
Yes.
Did anybody influence you into going into the Army?
No, not really.
What experience from your service affects you the most today?
I mean, positively, it affects me. You know, like I said before, it definitely changes how I would operate, I think, if I hadn't been in the military. Just more driven, and, you know, more attention to detail and things.
What was the longest time you went without coming home?
14 months.
Did you ever surprise people while coming home?
Yeah, I surprised a couple friends, and you know, I didn't tell them that I was coming home, so it was a big surprise for them. I told my mom as soon as I found out. So.
Did you have any relationships going into the Army?
Like with like girlfriend relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I had a girlfriend before I got deployed and stuff. And like I was saying, with like the distance and stuff, it's difficult. It wasn't anything serious though, so it really wasn't a big deal. But you know, talking to guys while I was there, I was really young, so I wasn't married or anything like that. But talking to like the older guys that were married and had kids, and they're missing out on Christmas and everything like that, I can see how it's definitely a lot harder if you are in, like, you know, if you're married and you're deployed.
Did any of your friends from school also join the Army?
Yeah, quite a few.
Was it like a popular thing to do?
I wouldn't say it's popular, but, you know, I was surprised with how many people I found out, like, oh, they ended up joining one branch of the military or the other, and I had gone to high school with them. Actually, I ran into somebody at AIT. They were coming in at the tail end just before I was finishing up, and I was surprised to see them there.
What was it like to be away for the holidays?
It was tough. You know, we got to make phone calls and everything and wish everybody, you know, Merry Christmas or Happy Thanksgiving or New Year. But, you know, the family misses you. You're missing them. So.
What were the sleeping conditions like?
We slept on cots for the majority of it, and eventually we got upgraded to like bunk beds in our tent. So.
How many people were in the rooms?
It was 30 people in a big open tent. We didn't have separate rooms.
What is one word you would use to describe your service?
Rewarding.
Define a hero.
Somebody who puts the needs of others ahead of their own.
If you didn't go into the service, what would your profession have been?
I don't know. Could have been anything. Could have lawyer, professional wrestler. Who knows? No, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done.
Did you ever get homesick?
Yeah, oh yeah, all the time. Mostly a lot of times, especially after you talk to your family on the phone. Then you start thinking about them more and stuff, and you miss, just being there.
How long did it take for you to think of it as normal life?
Like being deployed or the Army in general?
Being deployed.
It took a while because it's so different. You're learning how to deal with the different environment, and then I would say, I don't know, maybe like 3 months or so for it to be kind of like, hey, this is my life now.
Do you have any kids now?
Yeah, I have two, a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old.
When did you start having a relationship after you came home?
Shortly after.
And did you still keep in touch with all of your high school friends after returning home?
Some of them, a lot of people go to college, out of state, things like that. Other people, join the military. So, but yeah, my close friends I still talk to, definitely.
Who do you know from the military that you would describe as a hero?
My brother, actually, he's getting deployed soon. He just joined the Navy last year and completed his training. So, and it's going to be more difficult for him being deployed because he is married and he does have 2 kids. So, but he's doing it for his family. So.
Did you influence him into going into the Army?
Well, he joined the Navy, but no, I didn't. I told him, hey, you're married and you have kids. You got to really think about it. And he wanted to do it, so I was supportive of it.
How did he react to you telling him to be careful about his decision?
He listened to me. He definitely did his research and, asked people questions, people that were in the Navy. And I got him in touch with a few of my friends that were in the Navy so he could talk to them to get their, story and their experience with it. But he definitely took what I was telling him and did his due diligence with it.
Would you do the whole thing all over again if you could?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Describe your profession now.
Like I said, I'm a central station manager over at Cape Cod Alarm, and the central station is where we monitor alarms that come in, fire alarms, burglary alarms. So I have a team of 10 different people that work, 3 different shifts. So I have at least 2 people operating at every hour of the day, 24/7. So it's rewarding and fulfilling. Helping the team succeed and providing a service to, the community to make sure everybody stays safe.
How was it finding a job after returning back home?
It wasn't difficult at all. It was pretty easy. It was just trying to find a job that I was interested in and that was going to be a good fit for me.
Did you not want to be an engineer returning home?
I did work as in construction for a bit after I got home, but just kind of chose that didn't really want to continue pursuing that as a lifelong career.
Tell us a story that happened during your deployment.
We did a fun story. We did a project for an air flight crew that was on the base with us, and helped them out with some stuff. So they offered to give us rides on Chinook helicopters. So we got to go up in the helicopters. Those are the big helicopters with 2 propellers on top. And they let us put harnesses on, and they clipped us onto the helicopter, and the back of it has a tailgate. So they lowered that down, and we got to walk right to the edge of that tailgate while we're flying over the desert. And that was really cool. It was a pretty cool experience.
How does it feel to know that you serve for your country?
It feels good, you know.
Are you proud?
Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Are there any dark stories that you have?
Nothing like that needs to go on like a high school video.
Describe for us what you did during your time there.
When we were working, like I said, we did a lot of concrete pours, building at entry control points, which is, where vehicles come into a base. We did that a lot, and the pre-engineered buildings, dealing with those. In our off time, we'd play either board games at the MWR tent, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation tent, or like they had like some weights set up, so we'd work out or do whatever, joke around with the guys in the downtime. Do tower guard, where you're basically in a tower, just making sure nobody from the outside's trying to approach the camp. Search vehicles and people, which was always sketchy because you never knew if you were going to find something. But yeah, we didn't, you couldn't leave, so you're always on the camp or convoying to a job site. So you couldn't just go wherever you wanted to, like you can in the civilian world. If you just want to go to the mall, you go to the mall. You can't really do that.
What sort of things were you afraid to find?
Explosive devices, weapons, just explosive devices mostly. It was, and still is, a big thing that's how they would operate. They'd put explosive devices on vehicles or on the roadside. And you're searching under a vehicle with a big mirror, and that's the last thing you want to see. Or if you're patting down somebody, you don't want to find explosives on them because you know what the next thing is going to be.
Did you ever find them?
No, luckily.
What was one of your hardest challenges while in the war?
The daily grind and just the constant worry that something was going to happen. Especially, like I said, on the convoys with the IEDs, improvised explosive devices, that were around all the time. You were always just really concerned that something was going to happen. So that was the hardest thing, just the convoys, I think.
What is the convoys?
Convoys where like you have a bunch of vehicles and they're all traveling to one place, but you stay a certain distance so that way if you get hit, it doesn't take out every vehicle, and you can kind of handle the situation a little bit better.
Did you have any scares during the war?
We had the vehicle rollover. We had that breakdown in the evening. We had a vehicle start coming at the base pretty quick. We had, when we were at the border of Kuwait and Iraq, we were working on a checkpoint on the border there, and somebody in a building started firing on us, but they were so far away it wasn't, we weren't too concerned about it. But you're always concerned that something's going to happen like that. So we were pretty lucky in comparison to other units that were deployed.
Were the other units close to you guys?
We had other units close to us, but we were in a relatively decent area most of the time, so we weren't in like Fallujah, which is like or at the time really really bad area where things were constantly happening.
Did you ever feel like giving up and going home?
It wasn't really an option, so no.
For the final question, describe for us something that happened with the vehicle coming at you.
So we were on tower guard, and a vehicle started approaching the camp at a high rate of speed, which was very odd, especially in the middle of the night. So we had to radio that in to the gate guards, who then dispatched the vehicle out, and they ended up handling the situation and disarming the people that were in the vehicle, and pretty efficiently.
If you could go back and do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
I would probably just, like I said before, I would probably just choose a different job, a different career path maybe, something in the military intelligence or electronics field. Again, I joined in 2001, so I had no idea that technology was going to be like what it is now. And it would have been nice to have kind of a background in that coming into, today.
What do you think you would have picked?
Military intelligence or, maybe electrical engineering or something like that.
Do you think you would become an electrical engineer after if you had chosen that?
Maybe not an electrical engineer, but I would at least had a background in it and more knowledge to then apply it to other, technology fields that are current today.
Okay. Thank you
All right.
for your time.
Thanks.